I would like to begin by acknowledging that we're gathered here on the ancestral lands of the Lenape people and pay respect to the Lenape and other indigenous caretakers of these lands and waters and to their elders past and present. In partnership with Native organizations, the USDAC is calling on individuals and organizations to open all public events with acknowledgement of the traditional Native inhabitants of the land. An acknowledgement by itself is a small gesture, an incomplete gesture. It becomes meaningful when coupled with authentic relationships and informed action. It is a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous peoples' history and culture, opening public consciousness, inviting and honoring the truth. So I invite all of you to download the Honor Native Land Guide and to learn more and to join the hundreds now of cultural and education organizations that have already taken a pledge to begin to move from acknowledgement to action. That's all at usdac.us. So what is the USDAC? It's a people-powered department, a grassroots action network inciting creativity to shape a culture of empathy, equity, and belonging. And it's also an act of collective imagination, and by being here today, you are now implicated in it. Some context for what we're about to experience. Among our many activities, the USDAC holds an annual People's State of the Union, rooted in the truth that democracy is a conversation, not a monologue. So during this civic ritual, we invite anyone to host a story circle in their community, bringing neighbors together to reflect on the state of our union. This year, from January 25th to February 4th, hundreds of people came together in living rooms, community centers, libraries, places of worship, schools and universities, in towns large and small from coast to coast. Albany, Albuquerque, Atlanta, Baltimore, Boston, Brooklyn, Charlottesville, Columbus, Corvallis, Davis, Kalamazoo, Louisville, Lynchburg, Los Angeles, Medford, Minneapolis, Oakland, Philadelphia, Tampa, Tempe, Vermilion, and too many others to name. Folks of all ages and walks of life gathered using this democratizing structure of the story circle to build bonds of empathy across difference, to share their truths, to listen deeply, and to offer that rare gift of true presence. Participants then posted their stories to an online story portal, and that's the material that the contributing artists drew inspiration from to compose this evening's poetic address to the nation. Just one of infinite interpretations that could come out of the hundreds of stories posted. So thank you to everyone who hosted and participated in story circles this year. We know that much of the magic and the weaving of the we happens within the circle itself, and that the power and breadth of what you've shared extends so far beyond anything that we could bring to life tonight on the stage. I invite everyone to explore the dazzling array of stories, the hope, the determination, anger, wisdom, love, pulsing through the online story portal. It's a kind of open source heart scan of our body collective. Perusing our stories there, perhaps you'll be inspired to create your own poetry or performance. Another artistic take on this moment in time and history. We are each other's medicine. Our stories and songs are remedies to counteract the strategy of separation. Coming together in circles of courage and communities of care, we subvert the logic of empire through mutuality, compassionate connection, radical imagination, and serious play. The USDAC is not an outside agency coming in, it's our inner agency coming out. And you don't have to wait until next year's People's State of the Union to get involved. We are catalyzing culture shift all year round. If you haven't already, please enlist as a citizen artist. You do not need to be a US citizen or an artist. Thank you.
All right. Just a couple more things to say about this evening. So as Adam said, tonight you're going to hear from artists we commissioned to respond to the stories in that story portal. You'll hear music, you'll hear poetry, some short plays, and we've put together an extraordinary company of artists to deliver this material to you. Some of them are going to be performing their own work. Some of them are going to be reading the words that somebody else wrote, but all of them are here embodying the voices and the stories and the experiences of people all over the country. So, you're likely going to hear, I'm just guessing, you're going to hear some things tonight that you really dig. And we love applause here at the Public Theater. Come on. But I also want to invite into the room a different tool that you should, if you so choose, you can use your fingers to do this. If you hear something you like, something that's resonating with you this evening, I encourage you to send your snaps up to the stage. I think our artists would really appreciate it. And then finally, you've all got on your table these little tent cards. So as Adam said, I think the invitation here this evening is not just to bear witness to the stories and voices from fellow folks across the nation, but also to share your own. So I'll just say out loud the prompts that were used to ignite and incite the conversations in the story circles, and those prompts are going to be operating tonight on the stage, and I hope you will take them with you as you leave today. Share your story about an experience that gave you insight into the state of our union, about a time when you felt a sense of belonging or the opposite to this nation or your community, and about an experience that gave you hope in the past year. So I'll let that hang in the air for a minute. And as Adam said, now it is time for some serious play. Enjoy the evening.
When I say still, I want you to say, we rise. Still? We rise. Still? We rise. Still? We rise. Still We Rise, a national anthem deconstructed by Hakim Bellamy. The day after the British bombed Fort McHenry, Francis Scott Key woke to pen the Star-Spangled Banner in peace. The morning after, Dr. Maya Angelou gave us a song to remember. After years of silence, still. Like stories out of a story circle, like fist out of a march, like an umbrella at a crowded intersection when it begins to rain, like belonging out of a hug, still. Like a second-generation accent teaching classmates how to say her name, like the appropriate gender pronouns in not-so-dirty joke told at a not-so-filthy bar, like consent, like decent, still we rise. They will cut us with their compliments, belie the compassion in their eyes when we are not treated as though we are equals, still. We rise. Like the laughter from the playground amidst the duck and cover news last night, call America by her first name, united, still. Like the arms of Lady Liberty, like an alley every time a bully picks a fight, like a dreamer to a microphone, still. Like a country to a moment, like our voices to a tide, like our ancestors' expectations. The resistance has always been survival, and so we rise. Thank you.
I'm on the cabinet of the United States Department of Arts and Culture, not a government agency. And so the job of the artist is often to activate, to take and relate. And this song for this moment. Oh, Florida, oh, Florida, your theme parks and your beaches are covered in blood. Your children look out at us. They're crying in pain. Oh, Florida, be the trigger of change. The pulse in Orlando, LGBTQ. It's Latin Thursday, so let's have a few. Salsa merengue, life so simple, and then a jerk with a gun, 49 dead, amen. Assault weapons are stupid. Now add teenage hormones, stalk the halls of our high schools, turn into war zones. Those kids in Parkland, as they were slaughtered, can we listen to them? They deserve better. I'll tell you a story. Let Trayvon Martin have his say. But that's right, he's dead. Won't be with us today. Guns keep on killing. It's the American way. Oh, Florida, it's so late in the day. Oh, Florida, oh, Florida, your theme parks and your beaches are covered in blood. Your children look out at us, crying in pain. Oh, Florida, be the trigger of change. And this here is a poem that's built completely from the words, as Adam mentioned, that were collected in the story circles. So if you're out there watching and I say yours, this is called a poem and not plagiarism. The People's State of the Union 2018. I was doing that, drinking a coffee in my car in Lewiston, Maine, and I saw a bench and there was a sleeping bag, and I saw the bag move, and I was like, oh, someone is sleeping there. And it was like freezing. That guy was a symbol of something. I realized that this place I grew up in and that had such an influential part in my upbringing is not my home anymore. Having left for college and grown past the Nebraska views, I'm now an outsider to my once home. That guy was a symbol of something. I'm now an outsider to my once home. I wanted to talk about how I work for a Maine hunger prevention program. I work down the hill at a day treatment school for children with emotional disabilities, and some of them have no food at home. So I fill up bags of things so that I can bring them food on Monday, because kids can't start to be present until they've eaten, and it's so hard when they show up hungry and there's nothing to eat. That guy was a symbol of something. I'm now an outsider to my own home. It's so hard when they show up hungry and there's nothing to eat. What does it really mean, belonging? The closest I can say is that I belong within the community of the Seattle Labor Chorus. I know that they're my people, and maybe that's what belonging means. That guy was a symbol of something. I'm now an outsider to my once home. It's so hard when they show up hungry and there's nothing to eat. What does it really mean, belonging? I grew up in inner city Atlanta. I went on to become a probation officer, and I saw such a disparity. The odds are stacked against us. Now we have these incidents of black men and police, and these incidents are escalating. I have a younger brother, and I'm afraid for him to be approached by the same officers I used to work with. Will he be next? I just hope through sharing our stories we can bring some change. Maybe that's what belonging means. That guy was a symbol of something. I'm now an outsider to my once home. It's so hard when they show up hungry and there's nothing to eat. I just hope through sharing our stories we can bring some change. Hello, my name is Lisa Ann, and I'm a bitchin' chick from Santa Clara. I need help with my withdrawals. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. I had surgery in September. My surgeon saved my life. I'm a Democrat. I'm anti-war. I'm peace and love. I'm an old-time hippie. This is from an interview with Lisa in January 2018. Lisa died on 2/23/2018. What does it really mean, belonging? It's so hard when they show up hungry and there's nothing to eat. I'm now an outsider to my once home. That guy was a symbol of something. I just hope through sharing our stories, we can bring some change. It's the People's State of the Union, 2018. Thank you.
Poetic State of the Union
by M.J. Kaufman.
My story is about belonging and not belonging.
My heart is beating really fast.
I could hear people whispering.
I've been positioned as a unicorn in so many places.
I could not breathe for a full 5 seconds.
It made me think that I feel comfortable in Corvallis, but maybe I shouldn't. I've just realized that really there are a few places I feel like I belong when I'm in Maine, but mostly I feel like an outsider looking in.
I met some of the people that look like me.
But not just look like me.
But could be what we call in the LGBTQ, gender nonconforming community, your family.
Your real family.
The family that accepts you and shows you that they're going to accept you no matter who you are.
It was the first time that I really, really felt like these are my people. Like this is where I belong, and I didn't have to carry a lot of those insecurities of wondering what people thought about my appearance or how dark my skin is or about how smart I am in the midst of people who are super cool and all about beauty and fashion and culture. And it was great to have a space for once, even just for a weekend, where I can let a lot of that go and just be my most authentic self.
So a time that I felt the opposite of belonging, I guess, would be last year's Women March.
Unfortunately, because I went there with my family to DC.
And just all of our family stuff ended up coming up hardcore.
And just like how I was being treated by them as a newly non-binary transgender person.
I knew that I was a little girl, but they seemed to think I was a little boy.
People see me as masculine, but I'm not. I'm non-binary.
And like, kind of. I don't know. I come from a very white feminism, neoliberal place, so like sometimes they don't really listen to me. My white family, because I'm mixed race.
Usually as the only, often the youngest person in a room.
Or the only black person in a room.
Or the only person who's lived in poverty.
Or the only queer person.
And that is something that has been such a core of my life.
To the point where I would find myself uncomfortable when I was in spaces where I was not that only.
We've been processing and dealing with these complexities personally since the march, but
that day was kind of like, oh, all of our shit, especially on that day, is kind of a microcosm example of the fracturing that sometimes happens within feminism.
Between all the waves and generations and the different ways of looking at gender and sexism and the gender binaries.
And all the spectrums, third categories in between, and all that stuff.
For me, I hold these things inexplicably in untranslatable ways of field thinking in my mind. Hard to say, explain, verbalize, so it was telling to me.
I think that sense of not belonging was informative of like what was going on.
I would say if we go into reality now, okay, so we got this guy in the chair that's bringing all the shit out.
Like all the neo-Nazis, the hashtag #MeToo movement, like shit just got really bad. We gotta act now.
So you see all these activities happening now that probably wouldn't have happened if Hillary was president.
So that's kind of hopeful, I guess, because now all the skeletons are out.
If we know how to see them,
it'll be easier for us to take on. For 15 years, I played tennis every Thursday at 1 o'clock because I'm a psychotherapist, also, so we have weird hours, with another psychotherapist. And we'd spend half the time hitting the balls in Central Park and the other half of the time collecting the balls at the net and getting to know each other really well. And I deeply admired her. She was like a far more advanced therapist.
My heart is beating really fast because I'm going to share a story about a friend who's no longer here that really inspired me to be where I am today. I should first say that I was born in New York City, and I met Jane when I was an undergrad. And although I grew up in some community organizing in New York through my best friend in high school's mom, who introduced us to Rage Against the Machine and the freedom of media movement, I hadn't really gotten connected in terms of who were the Asian American role models in the movement that we could look up to in activism until I met Jane. And she was friends, I think, with my girlfriend at the time, Chantel, and she had James Dean's poster on the wall, and in a way, she lived life just like him.
And we played through my 9th month of pregnancy. I would go to the net and say, "He's not speaking yet. Do you think there's anything wrong?" And she would say, "Just relax." We went through everything together. And one day at the net, she said she had this weird pain.
And when I would meet up with her in New York, she got me connected with the Asian Pacific Islander Coalition for HIV/AIDS and Q-WAVE, which stands for Queer Women's Action, Visibility, and Empowerment Group. After we graduated, I didn't see Jane that often, and when I did, I would often take photos of them, and they started transitioning, and they always had really rough romantic relationships, really loved, really intensely.
And I said, yeah, she's always had that weird pain. She's always had it. And then she told me one day at tennis that she'd been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and I was devastated. She said, "We're still playing tennis. I live for tennis."
I remember one of the last times I saw Jane, they crashed on our couch. They were one of the first friends I had transitioned, so I had a really hard time keeping track that they're now AJ and not Jane.
And we played for the next 2.5 years through chemo, where I couldn't recognize her because she would show up bald with a baseball hat or a different hat every time. We played through the recurrence of her cancer, and we played up until 6 weeks before she died.
Anyway, we all ended up at their funeral because AJ died very suddenly. Their mom found them not alive in their bed, and they never came out to their family because even though AJ was very, very critical in terms of teaching us gender Gumby and connecting all the missing pieces of a lot of people who are still in activism today, they were crushed, I feel, because their dad was sick and they didn't want to bring shame on the family.
And during those 2.5 years, I had 2 other friends who were diagnosed, also lesbians, be diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And then another friend was diagnosed and died. That makes 4. These were 4 of my favorite people on the planet.
They transitioned in quiet, and I miss them a lot. We miss them a lot. And every year, this time of year, I always think about them and the day that I got that phone call.
And it turns out that it's not really coincidence that as a group, LGBTQ people have increased cancer risks, usually as a result of behaviors that we engage in as a reaction to the discrimination that we face, like increased smoking rates, drinking rates, drug use, eating problems, high-fat diet, high body mass index, not having a biological child before age 30. And we have lower insurance rates as a group, so we avoid the healthcare system because of discrimination or fear discrimination. 1 out of 5 transgender people has been turned away from a healthcare provider simply because they were trans.
"2017 was the worst year for transgender people in the United States, not only from the standpoint of an administration that rolled back protections at every step of the way, but also because there were more murders of transgender people during 2017 than there had been in all previous years in the United States. And why is that? You know, a lot of people think, well, because there's prejudice. But the fact is, it's not about prejudice, it's about discrimination.
Afterwards, we were cleaning up, and I walked outside with folks who were visibly presenting queer, Black, and Asian. And this truck comes by with Confederate flags in the back of the truck, and they were taunting the students. I could not breathe for a full 5 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. I felt so unsafe.
One story in particular was a woman who, I read it on social media, a woman was killed, stabbed 119 times simply for just being herself. Every day that we walk out the door, trans people are at a greater risk. You know, you get on the train, you get on the bus, Someone may look at you, see you on the train, and they're ready to kill you. They're ready to gun you down. It's not safe for us to walk out on the street.
When we look at what happened in 2017, we see that people like Misha Caldwell, who was a 41-year-old black transgender woman from Canton, Mississippi. She was found shot to death the evening of January 4th. Jamie Lee Wounded Arrow, 28, an American Indian woman, was identified as transgender and two-spirit, was found dead in her apartment, and Sioux Falls and South Dakota and so many others. And so when we tolerate discrimination like that, and we have our young children who are coming out and saying their truth and who they are and how we make them feel sick and ashamed, that's what we're causing. We're causing death.
30 years ago, I did a film called Just Because of Who We Are, about violence against gays and lesbians, and I thought, yes, we're gonna do this film, things are gonna change, and people will stop beating us up in the street, and everything is gonna be good. It's 30 years later, and the film is just as relevant.
I've had clients whose brake lines were cut and realized as they were driving home that there were no brakes as they were going down the hill. I've had clients beaten and harassed. And what are the effects of this? It's affecting mostly trans women of color. It's not affecting white trans women like myself with lots of education. What's happening is that people who are marginalized can't get jobs, are pushed into, economically depressed areas with lots of issues, can't get safe housing, can't get adequate food. They're engaging in survival crimes and survival sex. And then we say, okay, there's something wrong with these people. They're sexual deviants, they're mentally ill, they're people who can't hold a job. And the reason that they can't do that is because of what we in our society have created, with the most extreme social inequality. And when I take a company to court on behalf of a transgender person, oftentimes it may not seem like that much. Okay, somebody said something to them that they didn't like, or they were pushed around a little bit. But hey, we all have to deal with some bad things. We all have some problems that we have to overcome. But the effect is that people are dying.
It's not like I don't agree with your lifestyle. We are killing people.
He sends a message that's loud and clear, that trans people, we don't... He's trying to send a message to say that trans people don't exist. But the truth of the matter is that we do exist. If you roll back the curtain to the 1969 Stonewall riots, it was started by trans people. I'm sorry, trans women. Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera. If it wasn't for them, there would be no LGBTQ movement. Most of us wouldn't even be here. You should be able to grow up in a world where you feel safe to come out. You don't have to be killed or harassed in school or being pushed into the locker or having your lunch or money taken away from you.
You should be able to be who you are and be yourself.
Something that gave me hope. Danica Rome defeated one of the most anti-trans men who refused to debate her. That gave me a lot of hope. We are here and you can't ignore us anymore.
I think at this point, it is a radical act to take care of your body and to eat well and move and to think about your health because, as Audre Lorde said, we weren't meant to survive.
When I transitioned, I lost my family. I lost my friends, I lost my work, my job. My money was gone, and I was lucky. I was so lucky because I learned who I am, which is the most precious thing in the world for any of us. Even though I and my newfound friends were looking for where to lay our heads or where to get our next meal, I walked down the street and said, thank God that I'm transgender. And I meant it.
And she thought it would be a good idea to give me a minute. Yeah, well, it was actually a favor, and I'm totally bombing it, right? Okay. All right, y'all. I debated coming here. Like, I really debated. I thought about standing up in a room full of people patting themselves on the back for just sitting at some party. Like, this is some act of great political proportions. Like, okay, let me just ask. Get it out of the way. I'm sorry. How many of you have been to more than 20 protests since that guy got elected? 20? No? Who's, oh, we got a 20 over here. All right. Who's been to about 10? 10? We got some 10 groups. All right. 5? All right. We got hands, and none. For real, none? All right, well, y'all are my people. Y'all are who I'm talking to, because niggas got jobs. And, okay. Right? Because I'm gonna talk for a second. Do you know how many shifts I had to move around just to come here and talk to y'all tonight? I mean, like, y'all lucky that Tina's girlfriend's birthday is coming up and she needs to be picking up shifts from everybody. No, I'm just messing with you. It's a Sunday and I wouldn't have made a lot of money anyway. But I did have to hire a babysitter, so technically I am losing money here. Well, when I say hire, I mean, it's probably not the right word, but my mama is gonna guilt trip me. And I already promised her that I'd help out with her rent while she's on furlough. And, knowing I ain't got the kind of money for these luxuries, like protests and town halls and hell, even voting day. I mean, every time I have to pause my entire life, and some folks just get to do it whenever the spirit moves you. Like, hey, Bobby, I'm going to take a long lunch today. Trump pissed off some POCs. Yeah, I'll see you when I feel like it. See, I would actually love to have that job. Seriously. My bad, okay. This was supposed to be just really an aside. A parenthetical, a tangent. I guess my point is, and it's super simple, this isn't all that new. And there have been terrible things happening that deserve protesting. Just now, we have a president who kind of encourages it. The same things that made me mad in 2015 are still working my nerves. Just because I'm mad about a whole lot of other stuff too now, doesn't mean that I'm not still trying to get y'all to see that police are crazy. Policing is crazy. Incarceration is crazy. And now apparently in 2018, anybody with a gun gets to join the craziness. We are less safe because of those things. America is #1 in guns possessions, shootings, incarcerations, and police militarization. We live in the most heavily policed non-war zone country in the world, like the whole world. And all I'm trying to do is pick up some extra shifts so my son can look good on his first day of kindergarten pictures. That is all. So let me let you in on a secret. Prison doesn't work. It doesn't. I'm sorry. It doesn't reform criminals. And it doesn't actually deter crimes. And most crimes are what we call mala prohibita, meaning America legislates things that are only wrong because an interested party decided it would be a crime. Now we have an entire law enforcement system based on punishing people for stuff the morality of which is debatable and isn't actually hurting anybody, resulting in the prison system turning into an apparatus for slave labor. There are alternatives. This isn't the only way we have to live. While y'all all converting to Negroism and watching Black Panther, I mean, you need to check out my girl Ava DuVernay's documentary 13th. Who here has seen 13th? Raise your hand. I'm kidding. I'm just joking. I'm gonna stop calling y'all out. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm almost done, I promise. It's just annoying. Like, really annoying that marching looks so cute when y'all do it. And I'm not calling out any particular y'all, just y'all, the y'all. It's not cute. It's hard. It's a sacrifice. Mostly because the reason we're having to protest is because life is too damn hard. And to have to add to that, keeping up with politics and fake news and whatever the hell is going on in Asia. I mean, formerly incarcerated and currently incarcerated folks, LGBTQ youth that are homeless, have been homeless, and trust me, they aren't thinking of things way more important than whether or not one vote on one specific day every 4 years is where they need to be putting their energy. And it isn't easy at all. So, like, have some compassion, yeah? Go look up Race Bait R and BYP 100 by Jiréh Breon Holder.
I want to start off with a quote, if that's cool. That's cool, yeah? Yeah. I want to bring back the human encounter into places where material things have a prime status. In a museum, we're supposed to look at things and not talk to people. Tino Segal. Constructed Situations by Hakim Bellamy. Once, we were a grand experiment, a petri dish of power and people, brought to you by the same laboratory that put a man on the moon. Ashes to planet, stardust to dust. A country in its nascent adolescent, by comparison, trapped. Like our inner toddler, abandoned in our museum of history, of memory. Stranded next to a display case, a ballad in a glass box. Lost amongst the cornrows of a dismembered sculpture garden. We're too young for dementia, but not history. Leveled and strung up on our cranial walls like a cross, the things we ought to be versus who we are. This is not the first time dreams were against the law. A portrait of Geronimo in a Make America Safe Again ball cap, same color as his skin. No mascot. A glass of tap water from Michigan in a photo gallery of things that have become extinct. A mint edition of a Geneva Bible with the Second Amendment rubricated on page AR-15. A museum full of bodies because our inner toddler can't pronounce mausoleum. So, instead, we declare freedom and punctuate it in campaign speeches with 4-letter words like hope. Our Declaration of Independence is a mural across every border wall, like the Cross-Bronx bombing of the 70s, a war on concrete instead of color, like Lloyd's 1851 oil on canvas, or Cole Scott 1975 acrylic on sadness. We are also a museum of broken hearts and chains. A mixed two media hashtag Me Too crusade that might never have left the hushed harbor if it didn't have a country to save. A cracked commandment tablet with the Pledge of Allegiance buffed over the golden rule. A monument to all the wars we've prevented. The civil rights we eventually got around to defending the new wings of the Constitution we've erected to make room. An exhibition of our humanity, both flawed and found. A place to remember what it is to be American, how we go here, by boat or by birth. To remind us of promises both kept and unkept to one another. The cherry tree preserves our heritage, a national mythology of our foundation, a memorial to ourselves, still standing in our hearts like a star-spangled banner at half-mast. But in the parallel universe of our brain, this museum of us is on fire like a Sunday school in Birmingham, Alabama, brought to our knees like Rome, like Alzheimer's. A wildfire tearing through our collective consciousness, turning every artifact into artifice, evaporating each memory, good or bad, an empire on the brink of ruin. But we won't run. Still toddler, too young, barely walking or waking, but already braved desert crossings and slave ships to be here, to be part of this permanent collection. Thank you.
I'm a painter. For 20 years, I have only been painting secretly the divine feminine. I live in an unfashionable place, and I want camaraderie. My mother and father were Italian immigrants and didn't speak English, and there was a separateness. It was not as interconnected as it is now. And this isolation, it made things, we had abuse in our home. There was no anonymous group or platform for us to connect with others. I'm a #MeToo survivor myself. I was so unaware of the situations I put myself in because I didn't know better. Isolated with a sense of being different, there is no one speaking my language. We all look different. I felt enormous shame. My sister shared something with a friend about our household, and I thought, how could she break the taboo? Lying and not lying and the women's moves. The power dynamics are shifting. Women, minorities, don't have to be silent. Disruption is healing.
I mean, look at the stories of the young women gymnasts, the sheer numbers and the sheer years that this activity went on, and to what extent people knew about it. When we watched these incredible young women in the last Olympics, we were not aware of this. I think to myself, how did we fail them? What did we not tell these young athletes that they would accept this behavior in order to win a competition? It disturbs me. Not that there aren't a million stories every day. It's something that such a collusion of such a great number of men could conduct themselves so terribly and without consequence for so long.
Though I understand there were women, mothers in the room. The silence. Is it that competitive that there's not a person you can tell this to because you're so driven? That's what affects me, is the lying. I grew up with lying. It was always so crazy making for me. It's soul disturbing. Where's the truth? This kind of place that we're in again, I don't have the same kind of response to it. Everybody being quiet about it, I'll never be quiet again.
It's 2018 and we're still having conversations about permission.
It starts at home.
It does. I mean, my mother really favored my brothers. In my raising, the boys were more important. It was the American way. I shouldn't make that blanket statement. This #MeToo thing doesn't necessarily have me ready to march into DC, fellow traveler. I really support it, but I'd be the person silent on the Underground Railroad. I am a behind-the-scenes kind of person. I am really effective in that way. See, my sister has 2 kids, and I can see she treats her son differently than her daughter. I mean, my niece has less privilege and more chores.
Honestly, I'm kind of afraid to have children. What's in store for them in the future? How can I protect them? My daughters or my sons?
See, that really, really bothers me. This fear of being, existing. See, I'm an artist, a sculptor, educator, but I'm really here to be a teacher, to teach self-worth. We have to have a why. Why are we here? And I'm sick of the fear and the judgment. It is everywhere. Take the art community. So judgmental. I went to a round table in Brooklyn, but it wasn't a round table. I am an advocate for strength, for people to be who they are. There were 3 young women. Why did I have to tear their work apart? I'm sitting opposite a curator who has to pick and choose, to pick talent apart, to be more aggressive, to be more judgmental. And now I'm about to be a professor. I mean, what can I do to empower the next generation? What more can I do? It's so stacked. I mean, half of them have to be inspired. The best jobs they have, the debt millennials, the best job they have is working in an Apple store. So I can't be bothered by politics. I am focused on what is in front of me. The community, the young people, the artists. All they have to do is look up. The proof is in the stars, and they'll have the courage to be creative.
No one's teaching courage anymore. We live in a lot of fear. It keeps us moving forward. Whether it's the fear of the flu or whatever, fear keeps us prisoners.
It's what our government is teaching us now, fear.
And guilt. We are taught guilt. Guilt demands punishment. It's a useless feeling. It has no purpose. It's a selfish emotion. We punish ourselves in all sorts of ways unconsciously.
Well, the government is teaching us guilt too, and a belief in punishment.
I work for the government, actually. Someone who works here at the museum invited me for this, for diversity, I guess. I did 20 years in the military, and now I work at a cemetery. I don't make my living as an artist, but I live as an artist. I found that when I was 15. I grew up in Wading River. The job I do now is rewarding. It's in my hometown. When I was 15 years old, I was paid to take on the Shoreham protesters. I was always on the fringes of this protest, a sympathizer always, even when I was stationed in Japan. I lived in the economy. That is not on the base, but in Japanese housing. Even here in this story circle, I am an outsider, but not. Will they hate me because I work in the government? There are a lot of people who work in the government who are like me. People from the outside look in and think it is a bigoted society, but within there is a counterculture. There is the creative feminine in me that could not have been marched or beaten out of me by the military. Particularly, I was an engine mechanic. The current administration makes me feel like I'm 19 again, enraged.
Yeah, I don't feel angry or frustrated. I feel hopeful. Maybe I don't agree with everything going on. And see, I realize for me, I am working on not being judgmental. I really believe we have more in common and we are connected. The arts are one of the ways we all come together. You are no different than I am. You are a reflection of a part of me. when I accept you, I accept a part of me.
I'm going to come out and say that I am an attorney. When I'm not working at the Watermill Center, I'm helping tribe members. My own tribe went to the Supreme Court, and now we're trying to fight for waterworks. Being a millennial, being 33, an older millennial, I feel frustrated. Being involved, supporting the arts. Art is really one of those things that brings people together. We are all concerned for future generations. In my culture, we always think 8 generations ahead. We have to prepare for them. We have to think about their future as we go through our daily lives. A lot of us in my generation feel a sense of hopelessness.
Say that again. For a while, I was an adjunct professor at Pratt. The life of an adjunct, it sucks. As a student and teacher, I feel frustration with the way this country is run, and it starts and ends with education. It's a business.
Well, so both of you are nurturers as educators, yes? I mean, you should join a union. I mean, see, I believe in that. Together, we have power. Alone, we are vulnerable. But Saturn is a state of strength.
Unions. Individuals have power. There's something called voting, expressing one's opinion through the vote. The union is a united effort to create something new. Change. Change is good. Embrace that. And I think there is hope. Life without hope is, you have to have hope.
There is no life without hope. Life is change, and change is life. Yes.
I think so many people are fearful of change and wanting to hold on to whatever they had before. I think that it goes with a lot of the things that people are worried about on a lot of the issues.
We live with a lot of fear. It keeps us moving forward, whether it's fear of the flu or whatever. Fear keeps us prisoners.
Well, maybe the reason there are fewer people here is they are fearful of having the flu or being shot. See, I'm very knowledgeable about astrology. This is why a lot of people are sick. Saturn just went into Capricorn in its natural state. And people have to take responsibility. It's not about going to the top of the hill and seeing the view. It's about the journey. When you get sick, it's something in your soul is not working well. I mean, we should do something. No, we should do something. Like right now. So on the count of 3, let's say just one word. Let's say one word to dispel all of our fears. Any word that gives you strength. Are we ready? Hello, are we ready? Woo! All right, so on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Yes! All right.
Courage.
Empowerment.
Forgiveness.
Grace.
Why grace?
Well, I don't know anybody here, and I just, I feel like I was able to be here and participate, and everybody here in our circle, and it's just so energetically empathizing, yeah? I thought it was beautiful. Synergistic melting and morphing of ideas. I felt grace was here with us.
At the Presbyterian Church on the reservation, when we come together after each session, we sing Amazing Grace. I am always the one to belt it out. When living out here, surrounded by my family on the reservation and the local community, you form the bonds. It's beautiful. But you attend a funeral nearly every week, and it's not always older people. When older people, pass, it's sad, but you hope for wisdom. But when it's the people who are dying at my age and younger, that song, you know that they're dying from addiction and opioids. That song I'm not really that religious, but I go because my grandmother goes. And I go because they need help with their choir. I really should go more. It would make me feel really better if you could. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see.
Saturn just went into Capricorn in its natural state. People have to take responsibility. Saturn is a favored my brothers. My mother really favored my brothers. My mother really favored my brothers.
You
my
are
mother
so
really
driven.
favored my brothers. My
There
mother
is
really
not a
favored my
person
brothers.
you can
My
tell
mother
these.
really favored my brothers. My
There is
mother
not a
really favored my
person
brothers.
you are
My
so
mother favored my brothers. My mother
We are just
thought. My very
what affects me is the light. 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 I'm kind of afraid to have children. What is in store for them in the future? What is in store?
Saturn is a state
Of strength.
Thank you. This is a poem by Luis J. Rodriguez, and it's from the perspective of a California homeless man to a visitor from Wisconsin. America is one big con, dude. Mark my words. The dream that never became real, the ideals that died with every crisis, the freedom that beckoned, then imprisoned us in debt. Mortgages, wages, you get a foothold, a semi-decent job, you find no love, then kids come, and when it looks like everything's gonna work out, the rug gets flung out from under you. I've fallen into the deceptions, man, all of them. Which parents, church, school, and the media fed me since I was born. Work hard, don't break any rules, pay bills. I'm one of the good guys. America, I fought in Nam. I held my own, proved my worth. Now I sit on a graffiti-scarred bench without a job, no house, no family, in the biggest tourist show anywhere, on Venice Beach, next to a palm tree with frothy waves on sand, sunshine for days, waiting for someone to toss me $1, some food, a kind word. I don't hate anyone. I don't blame anyone. I blame myself, victim of an elaborate lie, a lie called America. Oh, America works for some people. There are 58 billionaires in Los Angeles. There are 58,000 homeless on the streets. You do the math, America. This didn't work for me. I have skills: mechanic, welding, pipe fitting, machinist. But those jobs are few now. Although in the 70s, when I landed back in country, they were everywhere. By 1984, around when Springsteen performed at the sports arena singing the working man's laments, LA had closed 300 manufacturing plants, hundreds more since then. Don't worry, I'm all right. I can't be conned anymore. Neither Republican nor Democrat. I have no stake in a system that has no stake in people like me. My only regret, not learning sooner that if you want anything, you have to organize to get it. You'll need a vision and a plan. don't fall into the traps. Dude, mark my words. Don't end up like me. Get that vision. Help with that plan. Create a new house with a sturdier foundation now that the old house is crumbling. Otherwise, you'll only have ruins to walk through. Otherwise, the sunshine and ocean breezes remind you that nature works. You and I may be able to work, but the system, with its high rents, billboards advertising nothing I need, TV and video shows that are as addictive as most drugs, and police that call you names, poke you to move on, who destroy what little property you have. Now that system doesn't work. Mark my words. Thank you.
Hi. Do we have any Geminis in the room? Yeah. Just know that you share the same zodiac sign as the president. Really hold that in your heart. Right? And I know you're doing the like horoscope math of like, but my rising sign is Leo and his rising sign is Capricorn and Capricorns are dicks and Leos are perfect and Okay. I didn't come up here to make the Geminis in the room feel bad. I came up here to let you know that I did just land from a lesbian wedding in Vegas. Lesbian wedding in Vegas, true life. Yeah! Flew out this morning, landed at about, I don't remember. I came right here and I haven't slept and it's really good. And before I keep going, I was wondering if this room would be into it, if we could just record a hi video to say hi to Emma and Sarah, to congratulate them on their wedding. Would you be all into that? Yeah? Okay. Oh wait, I haven't pressed record yet. It's really high-tech technology that we're gonna do this with. So, okay. When I press this, okay, action. Hi. Congratulations, Sarah and Emma, yay, hi. They're gonna really like that, thank you. So I find that weddings are the best form of theater, actually, because it's catharsis, you cry, you're happy, you like sit with your life choices of like, am I gonna get married? Maybe I married the wrong person, maybe I married the right person, you know, you like sit with all that, and it does something to release your heart open. And that's the mindset that I'm in right now. And these were, so I'm wearing this, oh, does it say 31 or 13? This says 13 to you? 31, okay, oh, got it. Magic. So we were at table 13, which was like the radical queer table, and then also known as the slutty table is what I describe it as. And these are the glasses. And then if you turn it this way, this is 31, which is how old I am. So radical for a woman to reveal her age on stage. It's bullshit we're living in right now. And okay, so because I just landed from a lesbian wedding in Vegas, I didn't bring my instrument because I know that United is like killing dogs on planes, and I didn't want to deal with the stress of packing an instrument. So what I did instead is I wrote a song for this entire room to sing, and we're gonna sing it together. And it's, yes, thank you, yeah. It's, I can't see you at all. So it's, it's written in 8 parts. And that means that we're going to separate this room into 8 parts, into 8 pods. Okay, so what you need to know is that these words were taken from some of the stories that I had read from the poetic portal that we were deriving our thing from. And I wasn't going to share this one, but I'm actually feeling like I really want to share this one story. It's really quick, so I'm going to read it. So this one was titled Rules versus Human Needs. It reads, well, professionally, you never know where your career is going to take you sometimes. But around 2005, I ended up at a small nonprofit in Southwest Philly that was helping youth who had been incarcerated get jobs, as well as helping out the community with food pantry and things like this. And I was hired there after experiencing some unemployment. I was brought on board as the director of IT. So I was kind of off in my little glass tower doing IT networking and file-related stuff. One morning, the receptionist was missing at the front desk and a family had come in for food. Families struggling with food security would come in and get a basket of food. I came down and I saw it was a family. I kind of knew the routine, where the sign-in sheet was and where the food was located in the office, so I helped check the family out and give them a basket of food. And the lady who had 3 little kids with her asked, "Can I get another basket? Because my sister is struggling, and also my next-door neighbor needs this and that." And I knew I wasn't supposed to, and no one was around, so I was at the helm kind of thing, and I ended up letting her take as much as she needed. She said enthusiastically, "Thank you, sir. Thank you." That was enthusiastic. "Thank you, sir. Thank you." I replied, "No problem," but was thinking, just hurry up and go before somebody comes. So I say all that to say that I feel a sense of connecting to the community in the sense of providing for the needs and realizing that it is not about following hard and fast rules, but really meeting people's needs where they are. And that's how I feel that connection in everything I do. And the tag words he had put down were community health submission, Pennsylvania family children. We Will Get Through This was pulled from a story about a medic who was working on the Gaza Strip, and he had found out about our election and was being comforted by the people in Gaza, saying, "Look what we went through and we're still smiling. We will get through this. You will get through this." The greatest power I have is my ability to love is pulled from a story about an evangelical Christian whose family and whose church members had voted for somebody whose ideals were completely antithetical to his religion. And he was talking about how he has the strength and the knowledge to talk to his community members to somehow talk some sense into it. And he said it's not easy work, it's not something he wants to do, but he's going to try and do it. So with that, we're gonna sing this song and we're gonna think about these people who wrote those stories, and we're gonna think about our life choices, and we're gonna get through it, right? Yeah! Okay, so the way this is going to work, you're gonna have to watch and listen. I'm gonna hold up your group numbers and I'm just gonna sing your part while holding up your thing, and you're gonna catch on really fast. It's gonna be just like school time, right? Okay, great. We're 5 years old again. Let's do this. Community health submission, Pennsylvania family children. 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 We will get through this. We will get through this. We will get through. Community health submission, Pennsylvania family children. my ability to love. The greatest power I have is my ability to love. The greatest power I have is my ability to love. Go to the next side. Greatest power I have is my ability